Meeting to order for the Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville-Davidson County. And at this time, I'd ask Margaret Darby, our legal counsel, to read the code.
Appeal decisions from the Sports Authority Board. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68030 of the Metro Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Sports Authority Board may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met.
Thank you, Margaret. We welcome each of you here this morning. It may feel a little cool in here, so I don't think any of us will have an excuse to take a nap or go to sleep this morning. I think we'll be kept awake. But if you get cold, Coach told me that he found a room back behind us back here that's very warm. Don't all go at once. Glad to see a good number of our members of our board here this morning. We may have another one or two to come in that haven't arrived this morning. We're very pleased this morning to have a special guest in our audience, and I want to introduce to you Kim reminded us that with the work we're doing and with the LP Field and with the arena that we should remember our contact with the media, and we have this morning with us Dave Amenhauser. He's been with the Tennesseans since the spring of 2012 as sports director. He wears many hats at the Tennessean, but his main purpose is to coordinate the sports department's multimedia coverage plan. Earlier this month, the Tennessean was awarded 8 honors in the annual Associated Press Sports Editors Contest. The Tennessean sports section won more awards than any other sports section in the country, competing in the daily circulation class of 75,000 to 175,000. The Tennessean's 8 awards is impressive when you consider that the newspaper had not won a single award since 2005, and the haul of 8 is more than the paper has won in the previous 2 decades combined. Congratulations, Dave. And prior to coming to Nashville, Dave was a sports editor in Riverside, California. He has also been the sports editor in New Haven, Connecticut, Rock Hill, South Carolina, and Westminster, Maryland. He, his wife, and 2 children are building a house in Providence in South Mount Juliet. Dave, you want to come up and say hello to us and give us a word? Let's welcome Dave to...
I feel horrible. In my 284 days here, I have not yet met with you, sir, or said hi to you. I don't know how. Should I just address you guys and let you guys see my back? Is that okay?
That's fine. That's fine.
No problem. First of all, I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak with you this morning. I appreciate the opportunity, and I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about journalism. And unfortunately, some of you, Margaret, Sean, Jerry, they've already heard this speech 3 or 4 times already, so I apologize for the repetition. But today marks the 284th day that I've been in Nashville. I arrived in your fine city during the 2nd week of May of last year. In those 8 months, this is the 45th time I've actually gotten out and spoken with the community about the Tennessean. I've met with service groups, colleges, the different pro teams, chambers of commerces, civic groups, et cetera, et cetera. Later today, I'm actually having a one-on-one, off-the-record, sit-down lunch with Mayor Dean. I have yet to meet with him, so it's kind of coincidental. I'm meeting with you guys this morning, so don't say anything bad, because I'll tell him. And then I'll meet with the mayor later today. But the whole purpose of all these meetings is really just getting a sense from you guys and you guys to find out what we can do to make the Tennessean better, especially, obviously, the sports section. It's my belief in the last 20 years, the Tennessean sports section kind of lost its way. And it's no disrespect to the Predators, Jerry's heard the speech before, or the Titans, et cetera, et cetera. It's just when the pro teams came to town, the Tennessean kind of forgot that it was like the fabric of the community. Now the Predators and the Titans, this arena we're standing in, are vitally important to obviously the community and the Tennessean, but the rest of the community sports are also very important. And that's the main reason I'm going out and meeting with everyone. I want to get to know everyone, whether they're associated with the pro teams, the colleges, the low level of, for example, the Goodlettsville Little League team, which we gave a lot of attention to a year ago. These meetings have translated already into a lot of new features within the Tennessean. I mean, from little things, like we do this little mid-state update each day that's on page 2. It just highlights how a former local athlete and how they're faring on the next level, whether it's a high school kid playing at college, whether it's a former college kid playing in the pros, et cetera, to other things. I mean, we expanded our Music City Bowl coverage this year. I mean, we gave the Music City Bowl more coverage than it's ever received in the past 15 years. We added a high school football section on Fridays. I don't know how many of y'all saw that, but it was like inserted in your paper on Fridays. It was all about which games to go see, et cetera, et cetera. A couple weeks ago, I added a golf writer back to the staff, and we're in the process of looking for a motorsports writer. I've started an internship program. When I came here, I was stunned to learn that there was no strong relationship between the colleges and the Tennessean Sports Department. So since I arrived last May, I've already had 9 interns within our department. I currently have 4 kids from Vanderbilt. I'm sure many of you know that Vanderbilt has this Grantland Rice, Frank Russell Memorial Scholarship. And when I was a high school senior, I actually applied for it, or I may have gotten to town earlier if I'd won, but I didn't win. But when I got here, I was stunned to learn that there was no relationship between the Vanderbilt interns who are getting this money and are future sports journalists and the Tennessean. Well, I'm working towards correcting that. As I just mentioned, we currently have 4 Vanderbilt students. A couple of them have won this scholarship in the past, and my goal is to have all those students who win that scholarship work with us. We've had students from MTSU with us too since I arrived, a couple of students from Tennessee last summer. My goal is to get the internship program working with all the universities. I have a student coming from Trevecca this summer. I want to get students from TSU, and from Lipscomb and Belmont working with us also. So hopefully you'll see some more names in the paper, and many of them college students down the road. A lot of the moves we've made have been positive. I've heard a lot of positive comments, and I appreciate those. But what I really want to hear, quite honestly, is the criticism. So when I finish talking today, feel free to throw darts aplenty at me, because I really want to make your sports section one of the best sports sections in the country. I can make you a couple promises up front. When I came to town back in May, I got to town, so my first day of work was on a Monday. The very next day, your sports section was like 4 pages long. It floored me that a paper in a city this size would publish a sports section 4 pages long. So I can tell you it hasn't been that small since I arrived. We're getting bigger and deeper all the time. Luckily, I had the support of our editor and publisher to basically do what I want to make our section better, and they've been very, very positive in the feedback and the contributions to my staff to make that happen. The biggest problem we face is the world of journalism is quite different from the one that I grew up with and the ones you all grew up with. Our business is in a major, major transition. I mean, I call it the electronic communication revolution, which isn't anything different than, honestly, in my opinion, than our forefathers experienced during the Industrial Revolution. Our lives are changing, and they're changing very, very rapidly. Traditional media companies are struggling to find ways to remain financially viable in the world where, unfortunately, a lot of our kids, rely on TMZ more than they do CNN or their daily newspaper. How many of you all have watched cable or satellite TV in the last 24, 48 hours? I mean, probably everyone's turned on the TV, right? You pay for that service. You pay a lot of money for that service. I remember as a kid growing up in rural Maryland, I would go out and literally turn the antenna off the roof so we could either pick up the Baltimore stations or the Washington stations. Today, you got hundreds and hundreds of choices on television to get your entertainment and your news coverage. But that coverage costs money. You pay anywhere probably from $50 to $150 a month just on cable television. How many of you, Alfonso, well, that's not really a bottle of water, is it? Chuck, you got a bottle of water in front of you. Well, you got it back there though, didn't you? So it didn't cost you anything. But some of us go out and buy a bottle of water from time to time, don't we, Kathy? See, you got a bottle of water there, I see it. But how much do you pay for a bottle of water? You stop at a service station, you pay $1.50 for a bottle of water, right? When we were kids, how much did we pay for water? We didn't pay anything, right? But it's okay to pay $1.50 every day for water, or maybe stop at Starbucks for a $5 coffee, et cetera, et cetera. You understand where I'm going with this in a second. Margaret, you be quiet. You probably already figured it out anyway. And how many of you have an iPhone in your pocket or a smartphone? I bet 90% of the folks in here have a smartphone in their pocket. Mr. Temple, you might not, but bless you, sir. And you read your paper this morning too, I'm sure. But growing up, do we have these when we were kids? No, of course not. But God, my kid wants one now, and I refuse to give it to him, even though he's going to high school next year. I'm probably going to have to give it eventually. But we pay $50, $60, $75, $100 a month to get information off your smartphone. That's crazy, in my opinion. Thank God Gannett pays for mine. I lost my spot. Now I feel like everyone's looking at me. Aha! But I'll give you a little clue, though. I mean, our industry, the newspaper industry, we don't know what the future holds. I mean, some newspapers have already folded. Newspaper Ann Arbor, Michigan, for one, has folded. Some newspapers, like the newspaper New Orleans, is now publishing 3 days a week. I can tell you, Gannett, the Tennessean, doesn't plan to follow that at the current time, but the world as we know it is rapidly changing, and we're now offering all of our services on different multimedia platforms, whether it's on your iPhone, your iPad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The dirty little secret to our industry is we don't know what's going to happen. Our industry made a huge, huge mistake about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we started giving away all of our information for free on the internet. You know, you could just go to Tennessean.com, get the information, blah, blah, blah. Every newspaper in the country at the time, well, practically every newspaper in the country at the time was doing that. And from our standpoint now, that was a big, big mistake, because everyone has taken for granted that information is free if it's given to you by your local media. It's not free if you get it on your iPhone or on your satellite TV, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now that the Tennessean, as many of you guys know, I'm sure a lot of you are angry that, hey, the Tennessean raised its rates last year. And we did. We now charge you 38 cents a day to get all of that information. But people are outraged with us, even though you can get a bottle of water for $1.50 or pay your phone bill, which is, a couple dollars a day, et cetera, et cetera. So I ask you just to consider that when you think about picking up the Tennessean next and where we're headed in this industry. If I can return back to sports, I'd like to point out, despite all the cutbacks and layoffs, et cetera, that you read in our industry, et cetera, the Tennessean has a bigger sports media staff than any other media in the state. We cover more things and do more things on more different levels than any other company. So we want to be part of your community. My vow is to become even, as you can see, I'm here today, I'm out and about. I want us to become a much stronger relationship with the community. One of the things we plan to do this summer is add actually a college sports website. To me, the TSUs, the Lipscombs, the Trevecas, the Cumberlands of the world are overlooked in our area. The Predators, the Titans, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and even MTSU to an extent, get a lot of the headlines, but we need to do a better emphasis on the smaller colleges. And obviously we need to do a better job covering the Olympics that are coming up too, right? That's a laugh, come on. You guys are I got a check for $2 billion in my pocket. In closing, I mean, just thanks for listening. I kind of skipped ahead a couple things because it's not really relevant to this group here. But the Tennessean Sports Department wants to become a bigger part of what you guys are doing, what every group in this community is doing. And if there's anything I can do to help that grow and that relationship grow, please, please call me, yell at me, scream at me, let me know what I can do. That's it.
Thank you, Dave. Does anyone have a question you want to ask Dave?
Don't clap. It's not worth clapping. Yes, Kim.
It's more of a comment.
Sure.
A couple comments. One, I still enjoy a real paper, and I don't know how people could go away from that. So thank you for your renewed focus on our teams here, more in-depth coverage on the Preds and the Titans, and I'd say we will extend the same courtesy. If you need anything from us, please know that our executive director and our chair and any of us, we're here. And also thank you for the improved focus on women's sports.
Yeah, we got a long way to go in that goal, quite honestly. My staff does not reflect our population, and I can't fire people tomorrow, but as we have future openings down the road, our staff will better represent our community, whether it's by race or gender, quite honestly. We are too much of a white man's club right now. And I guess I said that on the record with the camera going, but I truly believe that. I really do. And Margaret knows that too. She's heard me. Margaret and I have talked in the past about the changes I want to make. Yeah, I have a staff of about 15 folks. One of them is a minority. One of them is a female, but she works part-time. She's a Belmont student. She does a wonderful job, but I'm hoping after she graduates, she sticks around and works for us full-time. Other questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
What's your plan? This board is focused really on the business side of sports, and what's your plan as it relates, or your strategy as it relates to covering the business side of sports?
I honestly, I rely heavily on our business staff to do those stories. I work with them closely, but we do need to do a better job of examining the financial aspects of the city, and not tearing apart what you guys do. Don't misunderstand that. Just what makes sense fiscally, et cetera, et cetera. I come to town, I hear everyone say, "Oh, we need a AAA baseball team." I know you guys have heard that, et cetera, et cetera. Not everybody, excuse me. I hear people talk about that, but to me, I mean, we do need a story that would possibly show fiscally it's not possible. If a baseball team comes to town, it's going to impact these two guys. Where's Jerry and Sean? I just don't know if a city this size can yet support something like that, as far as the revenues it would bring in and the corporate dollars, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, we need more of those kind of stories to get our sports section up the next level.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Chuck.
Dave, I agree with Kim. I'm still one that likes to get up and read the paper in the morning.
Good.
And I also agree with Kim about keeping women involved and following them. I was blessed and fortunate to work in the Major League as an umpire for over 20 years and just retired a couple of years ago. And I still work in Major League Baseball as a supervisor of umpires. And I just ask you not to forget the officials, because our friend Walter Overton, he's a local official, does a lot of high school basketball and football. And I enjoy reading the piece that you do about local people that live here and what they're doing in the big leagues and on other levels. But always don't forget about your officials, because everybody in this room, and ever since I retired, I would be in the Hall of Fame if I could umpire from sitting on my couch at home. So everybody in this room thinks they can officiate. So just think what it would be like. Just think if you getting ready to start a hockey game here one night, and
they don't show up
about 7:05 and start the game, and the officials are not there, and then somebody goes down and say, "Where are the officials?" How chaotic it is. So always remember your officials.
I will, Chuck, and actually I know your name. I covered the Orioles for many years, and we need to talk about this one game about 10 years ago.
That one call.
It was my fault.
Yes, it was. I'm joking. I have no recollection of a specific game, but obviously I do know your name from home, right? Pleasure to meet you too.
Welcome to Nashville.
Thank you. Thank you.
If
Yes,
there are
sir.
stories that we think or we know individuals that think may be of interest.
Call me.
Okay.
Yeah, call me. Unfortunately, and I apologize, this is, like I said, 46th time I've spoken, and I think it's the second time I forgot to bring my business cards with me. But I will get them so everyone has them for the next meeting. I'll get them passed out. I apologize.
Monica.
But call me. I can give you my cell number right now. Call me anytime. It's,
Monica.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. Cool.
Thank you very much, David.
No
I think
problem.
you see
Thank
there's a
you
lot of
very
interest here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move right ahead with our agenda. The next item is to approve the minutes of the meeting of January the 24th. You have received them. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Approved. And okay, we'll go right ahead to the next item on our agenda is our Executive Director search update with Alfonso Alexander.
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. You can see in the information that Monica sent out a brief update there as the first item just for analysis there, but I want to bring you up to speed on what has taken place since then. As you know, the posting went up after our last meeting and was up for 1 week, and during that 1 week, 156 applicants came in, and they were applicants from all over the country. The HR department at Metro has done a phenomenal job at culling those out that don't meet the qualifications and narrowed that down to 13 of the applicants, of the strongest applicants, and sent that information to me. The next step is that we're in the process of getting that number down to 5, and then the subcommittee that was assigned to work with this project, I'll be asking the full committee, the full subcommittee to meet with me for us to do a panel interview process with those 5 top candidates, and then we will come back to this board as a full board and make a recommendation of the one finalist for the board. And that obviously will be in that subcommittee meeting and panel interview process will obviously be an open meeting, so would invite any of the board members who'd like to come and sit in to come and do that. But again, just next steps is we'll narrow down to 5, and then the subcommittee will interview those 5 from there.
Thank you very much for the work you have been doing and preparing for this next step. And I would encourage any of you who want to be involved in the process to watch for the notice of the meeting and come and meet with the committee. Several of you have expressed interest to do that, and we want you to feel free to do that and be a part of the process. Any questions regarding of where we are right now with that you'd like to ask about the search process? I think it would be appropriate at this time maybe to mention that we've been talking, Monica and I, and we will have a short gap there when we will have her away having the new baby, and which we congratulate you, Monica. And we have a lady who has worked in the office before, and she's gone through the process or is going through the process with Human Resources and would be used to fill in during that period of time. She does not normally work full-time, and in the past has worked some part-time in the interim with Emmett and with Monica, and so the office is not new to her, and we will have her there to keep things going. And I know you've been asking that question, and we plan to have her to start before Monica actually takes her leave so that she can get accustomed to everything again and be working with us. So,
can you tell us what her name is and what her previous experience is in the office?
Okay. Monica, you want to
Her
come?
name is Norma Dozier. Norma doesn't. She's retired. She's worked in temp in several, I think, different departments within Metro. When I went on maternity leave 4 years ago, she was the temp at that time. Worked with Emmett in the office every day, and since that point, she's kind of been the person that we typically call if I'm going to be on vacation for a week or we just need additional assistance in the office.
Okay, and when will she start in the office as a As what will her position be? Just a temp?
We're working through Metro's contracted temp agency, Adecco, right now to get her settled in. Our goal and our plan is to have her in the office beginning the first week in March, probably about 3 days a week, and then full-time once I leave.
Which will be?
April the 8th, depending on circumstances. Yeah.
Okay.
All things are subject to
Monica's going to keep close contact with everything that's going on
I'll
and
be
help
available.
be available if she should need to call her. Reason she'll be working only 3 days beginning in March is that she doesn't really want to work full-time, but she's willing to help out during this interim period. There will be some days that she has commitments, she might not be there, but overall, she's willing to do this. I think that's great.
I think she's pleased to do it while I'm gone, and she's looking forward to coming in before I leave just to make sure that she has a handle on what's going on in the office. She's planning to attend the March Sports Authority meeting so that she can meet you all and put names with faces and just be available.
And that'll move us right into, you want to go ahead with your report?
Could I ask
Are there
one
any other
question?
questions?
Sure. Have you determined your plans? I know you can't say for sure, but your plans for maternity leave, how long you would be?
My plan is to take 6 weeks of leave. My physician's office has recommended that I'm out for 8 weeks, so I'll work from home for 2 weeks after.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like to me, JD, you said that Monica will be available to answer questions. Did you mean including during her maternity leave?
She said that if we need to call her, and I've told her that I would be more available to assist with anything that needed to take place, and I'm sure some of the rest of you will on the board, but Monica is willing to, if we call her and ask her, we need to know so-and-so, she doesn't mind helping us along that way if we need to.
Okay. Well, that's an HR issue, of course, so we won't talk about that. But in the conversation regarding Norma, what's her last name?
Dozier.
Dozier. Will she just do the work in the office, or will she try to do everything? I'm trying to. It sounds like she's retired and maybe doesn't want to work. So I'm trying to get an idea if we've thought about getting a second temp too, so we will have someone else experienced in the office. I don't know what they pay, but if we have someone who's reluctant to work a full schedule.
Well, I don't believe that she's reluctant to work a full schedule. She has not been working full-time since she retired. She works with, temp agencies and will take jobs, basically at her choosing. But when I did approach her about working full-time, she's fine and happy to do that.
Does she usually take administrative temp jobs?
Yes.
That is her skill set?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I don't have any more questions. I don't know if
Okay.
anyone else does.
Thank you,
Okay.
Nancy. Go ahead with your report.
Okay.
Well, good morning again.
Morning.
I'd like to thank Dave Ammenhauser for agreeing to come and speak to the board. We appreciate that update and the information and what you're doing at the Tennessean, and we look forward to future updates and excited about what's going on. I just have a few items that I'd like to bring to your attention this morning. If you look behind tab number 3, the first thing that I've included for you is the Sports Authority special event parking revenue. This is an update. I presented the same type list several months ago. This is for the periods November through January. Basically, we just want to keep the board informed on how your parking lots, the Sports Authority controlled lots at LP Field, are being used and who is using them. You can see the events that we've had in November, December, and the one photo shoot that we had in January. I've also listed the upcoming events over the next couple of months. you'll see that the Tennessee Baptist Convention, Nashville Striders, which is the Tom King Classic that you all are familiar with, the SEC basketball tournament, the Wally Bynum Caravan Club, this is their second year using Lot A at LP Field. The Color Run and the Country Music Marathon will all be using the lots over the next 2 months. Do you have any questions? This is just purely informational. Secondly, behind that page, you will see the proposed FY14 operating budget for our department. We've had a couple of discussions about this. You'll recall back in December, we discussed the current budget, and you were given a 3-year budget to actual comparison. Just for history, at that time I stated that our current budget for FY13 would serve as the baseline budget for fiscal year 14. Since our last meeting, Metro did have its budget kickoff, and you probably are aware that Metro departments have been asked to create a 2% reduction scenario. Now, certain budgetary items are not subject to cuts. So for the Sports Authority, that 2% totals $4,500. And you can see, if you look at the increase and decrease on the budget, that our cuts have been made in administrative areas. The improvements that we're requesting total $42,000 and are for the new executive director's salary increase and also for the stormwater utility fees, which we've also discussed over the last couple of months. If you're interested in learning how we arrived at about a $12,000 fee for stormwaters, and that will be recurrent. We're going to need to request that every year. If you'll turn to the last page of the budget, you'll see the LP Field stormwater user fee chart. And it contains all of the service addresses, the lots at LP Field, the responsible parties, because the Titans are responsible for some lots, the Sports Authority is responsible for some. And then there's also one lot that is, or one service address, I should say, that is being paid by Parks. So if you look at the average cost per day, which we received from Metro Water Services, then we can come up with an annual cost, which is about $11,400 is the projected cost. So we're going to request $12,000 per year for stormwater utility fees. If you have any questions about the budget, I'm happy to entertain them. If not, staff request approval of the proposed FY14 budget in the amount of $650,300. The cuts and the proposed improvements will be entered into Metro's budget system, and the deadline for that is Monday.
I have a couple of questions. You referenced, Monica, a $4,500 decrease per the request of Metro for all departments.
Correct.
But we've got a $37,000 increase here with the proposed piece, and I understand why. Would that be something that would be accepted by Metro Finance, or?
The way that the budget system works is we enter them into web budget, then you have to create different scenarios. So one scenario will be the 2% reduction. And so I will go in and I will list these cuts that are listed here. Then there will also be a scenario for improvements, and in that section, I will list the stormwater utility fees and the executive director compensation.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? I think it's just the way it's entered into the system. You have to do it twice, basically, to account for two different scenarios.
Then I guess a question that I have is, can we approve one scenario and not have both of them? I guess we need to have some discussion about that here today, because you need approval from us.
I do need approval before I enter
Before you
it.
go to Metro.
If that's your pleasure, that's.
Oh, we have, okay.
That works as well.
Okay. And then the other question I had is, and I heard you say that the 13 budget would be the baseline for the 14.
That's correct.
Can you give us, though, a glimpse of how we're doing in terms of projections to this budget? Are we, from an actual standpoint, are we running close to this budget, or?
We are, and I can send you, if you'd like, a BAR report, which is a budget accountability report that we do provide to the finance department monthly, but we are tracking, we really are behind in most of our line items because as you'll see from the cuts, we have a printing and binding budget that really is larger than our need at this point, just because of some changes that have been made over the last couple of years. And so we tend to fall behind budget.
So we're actually under budget.
We are under budget this time.
Yes.
Just one question. It appears from Monica's scenario that the cuts are going to be in the administrative department. Is that going to be negative to your being able to perform your job as you do it now?
You know, we do the best that we can, and we really try to be, I think, fiscally conservative and just understand our budget and try to stay within it. And I believe that we should be able to do that even if the department is cut.
Has the council hearing hadn't been scheduled yet?
The mayor and the council hearings have not yet been scheduled. I think the mayor's hearings are projected to start maybe the last week in March, 1st of April, and then they'll
So we'll have another meeting prior.
We have another meeting. We have a new budget analyst too. I was planning to be here, but apparently was unable to make it. Greg McLaren, who also is Metro's capital budget manager. It's been a couple of years since he's had a department that he's overseeing, but I think he's going to be very helpful, and especially as it relates to any capital.
When you have those budget hearing dates, will you send them to us? Just so if anyone wants
I'm sorry, I
to.
didn't hear you.
When you get the budget hearing dates with the mayor and the council, will you just send them to us if anyone wants to?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I have a question clarifying timing. When do you think that our budget will be submitted to Metro? When is that? When is it due?
The mayor's budget hearings are
No, when is our budget due to be submitted to Metro?
into the system on Monday.
Okay, and so in 2 business days. So we
That's
really have
correct.
to act today.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Because if you recall, we provided the current budget as a baseline just to give the board an idea of what we'd be looking at, but then we didn't find out until after the last meeting what our cuts would be.
What's the negative it's going to be?
We mentioned at the last meeting, the reason we didn't have it at that point, the mayor had not told us, or the finance department had not told us what the cuts would be.
Right.
So we learned that after.
okay. And so then when do you think, or do you have any idea, Monica, when the budget meetings will be?
The mayor's budget meetings
Yes.
will be the end of March, beginning of April.
Okay. And so we will have another meeting before that?
We will,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
And we, like all other departments, will appear before the mayor in his hearing, and then we also will have a scheduled time for the council finance committee, and we'll post you as soon as we know those dates.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would like to see at the next meeting, if it's okay with you and the board, our budget activity to date, the actuals compared to what's budgeted. And then we also may consider wanting to have access to the monthly reports that are submitted to Metro, so that we can also be apprised of how we're doing on an ongoing basis with regard to our budget.
Okay. Okay. I would entertain a motion then that we approve this fiscal year 14 departmental budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Approved. Okay, go ahead, Mon.
Thirdly, as you all are well aware, changes have been made to the way the arena's capital needs are addressed, and the majority of the improvements will now come from the capital improvement fee, the CIF fund. And these improvements do require approval of the authority. At this time, we do not have a formal process in place for approving such capital projects. But I believe, and I know that some of you agree, that we need to go ahead and establish a process or a framework for the board to approve these capital improvements. So if you look at the last item of information behind tab 3, you'll see some information. I think that there are two key determinations that the Sports Authority is going to need to make as it looks at and seeks to review and approve the capital. The first is, are the repairs and improvements necessary to ensure that the arena is kept in at least as good as condition as comparable facilities and is otherwise maintained as a first-class facility? If you look behind that page, then you'll find some sections from the operating and management agreement.
Are we talking about this document?
Yes.
It's actually in front of the budget.
I was in front. Oh, I apologize. Does everybody? I'm going to give you time to find it.
It's tab 3, second page.
Yeah, it's,
Is tab 3 second page?
Come on.
go ahead.
Okay. If you look, you will find some sections and some of the language from the operating and management agreement that I thought just might be helpful as you look at forming an approval process. The second determination that the Sports Authority has made, and Margaret and I have had some conversations about this, is obviously is funding available. The payments from the Sports Authority's revolving credit line come from the capital improvement fee or the fund. So the Sports Authority, before it approves any capital, is going to need to be informed as to whether the authority has the authority to make draws against it. So that's going to be a determination that the board will definitely need to consider as it seeks to review and approve these capital items. Understanding that the board needs every opportunity to do its due diligence in the approval process. The board also needs to be aware that approval should not unreasonably be withheld. So what I've done at the bottom of that page is I've just given you a couple of options as far as what approvals could look like. This is obviously something that the board will need to determine, but just to provide a broader framework to give you an idea, looking at the SIF approvals, those improvements that come from the SIF fund, this approval process that I've laid out in front of you is relatively similar to how capital at the stadium is reviewed and approved, so you can look through that. And then also, as a thought or recommendation, for the Metro capital budget submissions, approvals, because as Sean has said, they will continue to bring before the board by the December 1st deadline any improvement projects that need to be entered in Metro's capital budget, if you're following me. So we can look at that. The Finance and Audit Review Committee, I think it's going to be a great forum for that discussion to happen. If you recall, the Sports Authority's governance and best practice documents do call for the Finance and Audit Review Committee to meet to discuss the audit as well as the operating and capital budgets. So this is just something for consideration. If there are any suggestions from the board regarding the approval process, then I would welcome those. You can send those to me, and then we can continue to work through that.
And let me just mention, we are appointing a Finance and Audit Committee, but we also are appointing a member of our board to be a liaison on capital with Bridgestone and one with LP Field. As you know, Ralph Perry has been connected to LP Field, and he's continuing that. In fact, they've had meetings this past several weeks talking about that. And I've asked Margaret if she would be our liaison person to the Bridgestone Arena, and I think the appropriate thing would let Margaret take this and review it and work with our staff and with the president of Bridgestone, of the Predators, and come back to us on the procedure if it needs to be modified or altered, or whichever one we need. Are you willing to do that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding this process? Okay. Well, finally, I would just briefly mention that the LP Field capital reimbursement requests have been looked at and discussed. Walter will address this in greater detail during his LP Field report. But on February the 13th, Margaret Darby, Bob Lackey, and I met with the Titans to review their capital reimbursement request. We're continuing to vet the items that were presented, but wanted to give the board ample time to look through those and to review them as well. So in your packet, which should be tab 4, you do have the items that are being presented for reimbursement request by the Titans. There are several on the table in front of you, packets of invoices, just in case you'd like to look and review it. All of this, I mean, there's so much documentation, and the Titans really, I think, do a thorough job of that. If you would like your own packet, I'm happy to provide it for you. It is about 120 pages, but let me know, and I will get that to you. All right. And then finally, I just would like to remind the board that there will be a tour. I know I've sent a couple of emails out about that following the meeting, and we really hope that all of you are able to stay and just see the updates and improvements and walk through with us following the meeting. And that concludes my report if there are no other questions.
Thank you, Monica. And I don't think we realize, sitting here, how often that our staff, it was Emmett and now it's Monica, meets with our council and with the finance department to go over issues that relate back to the two entities, and a lot of that's going on all the time, so that when we are requested to approve a capital expenditure, it has been vetted very carefully by both council and by the finance department, and it fits within the contractual arrangements that we have with the two. So we appreciate you all.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
And we'll have a little more involvement with that. Raf has been doing quite a bit of that with LP, and then Margaret will be doing more of that with you. And
all right, thank you.
I have a question.
Question?
Well, actually for you.
Okay.
With the process on the appointing the Finance and Audit Committee, what's your timing for that? And
immediately, was going to let her talk a little bit about this morning. Asked Lauren Brisky to chair that. She's been, comes with a financial background and very capable, and has worked on it before, and she'll be chairing that committee. And I've asked Chuck to serve on that committee, and would welcome a volunteer that would like to serve on the Finance and Audit Committee to go with that. Helen has indicated an interest, but she's not here this morning. I don't want to commit her till she makes that decision, but we need two or possibly two others could serve. So if you're interested in being a part of that committee, they will start functioning immediately as soon as Lauren is ready to call a first meeting to handle any of the issues that come up. And then what we'll be doing is getting recommendations from that committee relative to the financial issues.
Did the board, I'm sorry, excuse me, did the board approve the budget?
Yes.
FY14 in one scenario? One scenario.
No.
So now Alfonso had a question.
We only did it for one.
We did it for one.
Past.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just approving the budget.
Right.
I just needed clarification.
Right, just the budget. Okay, so if you want to volunteer to serve, I kindly volunteered Chuck this morning. He got here a little early. And he was willing.
A lot of questions.
He was willing. Pardon?
You've been asking us a lot of questions this morning.
Right.
I'm just wondering whether or not Ralph and I, since we're doing the LP and the arena budgets, should serve on that committee just for that, because we're serving on those others.
Yeah, that'd be
About
great.
Capital improvements, probably.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That makes sense, and we can make arrangements for that. That's right. Because we're going to leave the personnel committee intact, and I've tried not to pick on those people right now that are very involved with that at the current time, and we'll continue on that process committee.
So you'll be serving double duty. Good job.
Okay, let's move right on to the LP field. Mr. Overton.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, fellow board members.
Good morning.
I suspect that each of you have received a copy of our periodic report that's sent out to you on a timely basis, I assume. Does everybody have one? We did. Okay, all right, okay. Since our last meeting, some of our events that was held at LP Field on February 13th.
It's hard to understand you.
Smooth talker, huh?
It's interesting.
That's a new one.
Youngest
I like
member
that.
brings that up.
I like that.
A little bit.
Okay, all right. Since our last meeting, does that sound good, Coach? Got it, all right. Okay, here we go, all right. We held the largest attended women's soccer match at LP Field. The United States women's soccer team. Thank you. There were more than 14,000 fans that attended that event, which we are very, very excited about. We have held soccer matches at LP Field each of the years. I know that since I've been there, and I'm sure that they were holding soccer matches before me. So that's been a very plus in terms of the relationship that Don McLaughlin has with U.S. Soccer. So we've been able to have a soccer match each and every year. Some of our events that are coming up will be the Tom King Half Marathon. That will be in March, I believe. The Country Music Marathon will be in May. And we'll have the the Country Music Marathon will be in April, and the Good Guys Car Show will be in May. Then we'll have our annual Country Music Festival, which will be in early June. Then after the completion of that, hopefully we'll have another event. I'm sure that Don and Tracy are working on some additional events, which hopefully they will happen before we start football again, which will be in July. As always, tab 1, we furnish our LP Field calendar of events that are up and coming. As you can see that our event calendar extends through 12 months, and we are consistently adding to that calendar. Tab 2 is our LP Field casualty and damage report. All of the items that you see on that report, invoices, we have submitted that to Metro Finance for reimbursement. Our last storm, we had some additional damage to signs and some fencing, some glass, as well as treatments. We are in the process of getting all of those invoices together, and we will submit those. It's, as I've said earlier during our meetings, we always enjoy working with Metro Insurance. They have been a very timely entity that has worked with us, and we work with them, and so it's just a matter of time before we start receiving our reimbursement for those casualty losses. Tab 3 is our ticket user fee fund, which you will see it's a little over $2.4 million. Tab 4 is our capital fund balance, which shows that we have over $1.4 million. Tab 5 is our unfiled reimbursement request, which includes all of those invoices that we have not submitted and those that we have submitted, which totals about $2.9 million. Tab 6 is where we like to furnish you with our ongoing projects that's happening at the stadium. You can see a very comprehensive chart of just exactly what things we are working on, the projects that have not started, that we are thinking about, some of the projects that have been started but we have not finished. Tab 7 is our reimbursement request in detail Following our February 13th meeting, we are requesting slightly more than 1.2 million. As Monica addressed earlier, we met with Bob Lackey and Margaret and Janine and Scott, as well as Dempsey, and discussed those invoices and projects that we have lumped together to make sure that they meet the requirements that's set out in the lease agreement. Some of you may recall in the past, we have provided you with a report that contained all of the invoices all at once and for your pleasure to read it anytime you wanted to. So, but we've tried to streamline it and to make sure that you have something before you that you could follow, that's easy to follow. And we have the backup material with the invoices that you can also look at. And should you have any questions, we certainly would be happy to answer them. Are there any questions? Yes, sir, Coach.
And what's that for, the outdoor chairs, or, I mean, is that for the stadium chairs?
$91 million?
91,000.
Oh, okay.
152, yeah.
On the
Chairs down here. This is on tab 7.
tab 7, okay.
The last, with the last chairs to the stadium. Page 3. Yeah, the last thing.
Oh, those are the chairs that we replaced have been in the stadium 14 years.
Oh, is that the club chairs or what?
The press box chairs.
Oh.
As you can see, the chairs for press level. These are chairs that are used by CMA people, TSU, anybody that uses the stadium. We have not replaced those chairs for 14 years, and we replaced them last year because there was a lot of wear and tear on those chairs, and we replaced them with new chairs. Some of the chairs still has some useful life, but just a small percentage of them. And those are chairs that we needed to replace in the press box level. Yes.
Can you explain cards too?
The Tennessee golf carts are the ambulance carts that are used during our games and other events that are at the stadium. That also are carts that we have had for almost 14 years. Some carts are used for our security. Security has carts. We have 24/7 security. They have carts. A lot of those carts are out of commission and they needed to be replaced.
So since they're for all events at the facility, that's what makes it a capital expense?
That's what we believe, yes.
And so they're all replacement?
Yes, replacement and some new carts. Some of the carts actually we purchased were used, but they are good carts that we've used, that we've purchased.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Chuck, I do want to comment on about officials getting some attention. As you well know, most of the time, we like to fly under the radar because we usually get attention when there's something bad happens in an event. So I know like you and like myself, when I'm officiating a ball game, when I can leave the gym and nobody knows my name or who officiated the event, we've done a good job. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had one thing I
Yeah,
wanted to
sure.
add. Walter, I noticed that you're going to be inducted into the Nashville Public School Hall of Fame, so I wanted to congratulate you.
Great.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And
I wanted to make another comment about
Since you brought it up. I don't know if you all are aware, but we had a couple of professionals here in town who served as replacement officials this year for the NFL. And one of them was a former partner of mine, David White.
Yes.
And I think he did an excellent job. He was highlighted though.
Right.
But anyway, I think that, the Tennesseans highlighting of those kinds of individuals would be of strong interest to the community. And I'm very proud of him and proud of you guys too.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you,
David
Nancy.
and I are in the same high school association of officials in football, so he's an excellent, what I call the white hat. He's in charge of the crew. So
Yeah,
he's
he did
good.
it. He knows how to instruct.
That's right.
Yeah.
One thing we have to remember about, Chairman, about officiating is that I tell my young officials who always worry about getting the World Series and stuff, everybody wants the World Series, but until you hear that dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun on ESPN, if they're talking about official, it's either something bad or you're dead. So,
I want to tell you, too, I had the privilege recently of meeting Walter's beautiful daughter. If you haven't met her, she's a charming person, isn't she, if you've met her?
Chairman Elliott, I would just like to remind the board that approval will be requested for these expenditures at the March board meeting. So if you have any questions, to please let us know. Like I said, legal, finance, and are continuing to vet those, but request will be asked, or approval will be requested at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, we'll move right on the agenda. Mr. Henry with the Bridgestone Arena report. Sean, glad to see you. You're smiling this month.
I'm smiling because all this love for officials. We saw our game Monday. There is no love for officials right now. The worst call ever made in that offsides call. But I do like seeing Walter and Williamson County coach.
The media agreed with you on that.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. Now, granted, we gave up
what
500
happened
goals.
with the other 6 goals?
Other 5 goals. I was quick to say that too. We could have won the game if we gave up so many. Always sticking up for your guys.
But I did this for last meeting, and I know we talked about when we got fewer people at the table, things would work out, and I'm glad you guys are back.
We're glad we're back too. Actually, the first phone call I got was from you, I think within an hour of the settlement. So it's good to be back. And this month's report is off of December, which is the last month before the lockout actually ended. But of course, we've had some nice success with our games so far. I also want to mention it's nice to be back in this room without everyone yelling at me and telling me what a bad job I do. Because the first meeting I was ever in, the last time we were in this room, was 2.5 years ago.
I remember that.
And I didn't even know what the Sports Authority was. Or was a sporting goods store that did business with us. And if you remember, for those that were on the board, it was pretty unpleasant if you worked at Bridgestone Arena or the Nashville Predators. And really all on our own, because there were some things we owed you. But I just want to thank you all for developing this into a pretty nice relationship. And I think what we're going to talk about today, and we've talked about for the past few months, a lot of good has come out of the relationship. So thank you for that. But I sent you out December's results a few weeks ago. It was a great month, one of our best of all time for December. And really just enjoying some nice show announcements. We're busier than we've ever been. We're enjoying the busiest event year we've ever had. It looks like next year may even surpass this year. So we're in a really nice cycle. But when you look at some of the things that we did, we had an opportunity to host the Grammy nominations, which ideally develops into something a little bit bigger with that same organization. We hosted 2 different basketball games. Both did very well. Ideally, we start doing that on a more regular basis and not just in March when we're doing the bigger tournaments. The Who played here to a record crowd for that tour. Aerosmith, again, set a record on that tour in our building. We had a New Year's Eve show that was sold out. It was just a great month for us. More importantly, even though it's not in the numbers that are here, you look at where we're sitting and what we just finished in January, finalizing that closeout right now that month. But again, you look at what we've done, we continue to set records for the shows that we're bringing for ourselves, year-over-year growth, which when you look at the 2 family shows that we did, Monster Trucks and Ringling Brothers, we did 1 less show on Ringling Brothers, but we grew our attendance about 15%. So again, we're just in that nice cycle. And Monster Trucks, we had the largest gross on the tour with 2 sold-out nights. And it's funny, everyone laughs a little bit about it until they come here and you start enjoying it. Kind of the same thing with WWE. It was the largest wrestling that we've ever had in our building, and we just hosted it just 3 months ago. So again, we continue to truly see the fruit of what we put together by bringing everyone together. And as we talked about with the lockout, there was nothing good about the lockout, but if you want to find the silver lining, we said we were going to further bring departments together to grow all of our events, and then eventually that'll grow our hockey attendance as well. And we're seeing it and living it right now. So some good comes out of the lockout. From a hockey standpoint, we couldn't be in a better situation. Well, I guess it could be if we were the Blackhawks, who still haven't lost in regulation. But if the playoffs started today, we'd have our highest seed we've ever had. We'd be the 4th seed. We actually have the 3rd most points in our conference, but the way the division leaders work, we'd be the 4th seed, so it's tremendous. We've also, Saturday was our 20th straight sellout on the Predator side, a record for us. Monday was the 21st. Tomorrow will be the 22nd. We're on the path of potentially selling out every game this year. We have a few challenges in front of us with 2 games that we're going to work real hard on, but it's really an incredible spot that we're in. I think a few years ago, someone said we'd sell out 2 consecutive sold-out games. People would have laughed, let alone last year we had 30 sold-out games, and right now we're riding that great high. So just been a tremendous month. Beyonce went up for sale last week, sold out in 1 day, which is incredible. You know, that's a show that when you booked it, we thought, we'd be in that 8,000 to 10,000 range. Of course, you had the great performance at the Super Bowl that helped elevate that a little bit, but we sold out in about 13 minutes, which is truly incredible. Again, people are noticing us time and time again. Every time we sell out, it's there. We have the Jimmy Buffett concert that I alluded to, I think in our last meeting. It's going to take place on the marathon day. Now, we had a choice that day. Turn the show down, because we always do the marathon concert afterwards for the participants. We give a lot of credit to the CVB and the Sports Council working with us. We actually relocated the marathon concert to the Municipal Auditorium, and then we're doing the Jimmy Buffett concert here, but Jimmy Buffett's promoters agreed to make 2,000 tickets available to the participants in the marathon. So it created something a lot bigger, and it's a lot of fun. That's when things really start working well, when we're not considering canceling something. That's what I always say. We've never said no to anything because of a date. We just got to get very creative on how to do it. So instead of just doing one show, the marathon show, and turning Buffett down, which is the only date we could have done it, now 2 buildings in town will have a pretty good crowd in their building. So it's absolutely, some good things are happening. If you have any questions about the month's financials, I can answer them, or maybe give you a brief update on the capital projects we have in process. If you remember, almost a year ago, we set out to identify our ecological upgrades, environmental upgrades, through the SSR energy audit that we did, at your urging. And we started that project, I think it was in September. We did some midsummer reviews of what the scope was going to be. If you remember, that was going to be about a 10, 11-month process, to get it all done. We're about a month and a half ahead of schedule, which is incredible. When you look at the partners that we're working with, how they work around a busy schedule, which really, the busier we are, the further behind that schedule should fall. But it's just the opposite. They're just doing a great job. In the bowl, the first set of dehumidifiers and excess capacity on our chillers are coming online, I think tomorrow or Monday. And once that gets up, we'll start replacing the others. And so we're in very nice fashion. Lighting controls just started getting installed right now. Plumbing is going to start in a month, so we're going along really well. And everything's coming in right on budget, which is nice because that's a hard number, which always concerns you a little bit, how much wiggle room you're going to have. But we're able to accomplish virtually everything we set out to do. So we're in nice sitting. From the south door renovation that we talked about last week with Rich Riebling, what the city wants to do to complement the convention center and connect that campus to Broadway. We had a nice set of meetings with the architects last week, with the MCC's architects, with their design groups, with their contractor as well. And we're probably about a week, 2 weeks away from having schematic drawings done. From there, then we could actually put hard numbers on top of it and then bring that before all of you to show you what we think we can do and what the schedule could be, so we can further answer questions and get input. So we're just in a nice place right now. It's good to be playing hockey again, even with some linesmen making themselves famous. So, but
I'd say, Sean, if we need to have a special meeting just for the presentation of the improvements that are going to be made, when you get the schematics and you get the cost figures and so forth, we'd be glad to convene the group and just spend the meeting reviewing those if you need us to.
Great.
And also, could we have, maybe at the next meeting or when it timely makes sense, have another just update from SSR? I think they came
Yeah.
6 months ago or so.
I think they were in September or October.
Just another
Absolutely. They
update.
love the airtime. So we should charge them for it. Well, thanks. I think we're going to take a tour after this, right?
Any questions of Sean? Anybody have any?
Well, this is a very good meeting compared to the last one, without question.
Some of us remember that meeting.
Oh, I remember it forever.
Don't we, Coach?
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting us get out of that meeting.
Okay, we are going to have a tour. I hope that if you have not been around all the facilities, that you'll be able to stay and go this morning. You'll find it most interesting, and if you've been and want to go again, you're welcome to do that likewise. Anything else, Monica, we need to? I think we want to thank you for your interim leadership and what you've been able to accomplish. Thank all the committee people, Alfonso's work with the Personnel Committee, and each of you, and glad to see you this morning, and stay for the tour. I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Keep wanting to ask more business, but you're not supposed to.